Everyone. The problem facing our group this week was to explore how technology might be used to update and transform the current practices of standardized assessments. These assessments, such as AQAOs, have traditionally been used to provide an indicator of a student's level of mastery in a topic or a subject. The aggregate score of how students within a particular school perform on the assessment provides data on school efficiency in meeting the educational requirements of the provincial curriculum. Our analysis of this particular issue will be made from the perspective of the administrators. Our group consists of myself, Anthony, John, Sandra, and Thava. Okay, so let's look at identifying the problem. Well, first of all, standardized test assessments work really well at discriminating between performance levels across the student body. However, they only provide a limited snapshot view of student achievement and progression. This limited view does not factor in natural variances that exist in diverse student population. For example, English language learners, cultural experience, and even a student's social and economic status may have a limiting or amplifying effect on his or her ability to interpret results within a particular subject domain. External factors that may be present at the time the test is administered, such as mood, sickness, disposition, and even stress, may skew student individual results. Okay, so what's the current situation? Well, the current practice is for administering standardized tests is paper-based test packages. While technology may be used for scoring purposes, its role in the assessment process is limited to non-existence at the point where students are taking the test. This seemingly two-dimensional presentation of a brief question on paper may not necessarily reflect how it was learned by students in 2014, as many classrooms are increasingly incorporating technology in the learning process. The the resulting data that come from standardized tests may have a skewed effect on the public perception of how a school is performing and educating its student body. High test scores are are deemed to reflect that a school is effective in its teaching mandate, while low test scores may give the impression that a school is not as effective. The problem with making such broad assumptions is that the schools do not take into account the external variables to test student performance, such as language abilities, social economic status, or even environmental variables that may impact an individual's learning. Standardized tests provide an inaccurate measure of schools' effectiveness. They're really unable to demonstrate the progression in knowledge that a student has made during the year, as they are taken as a snapshot. For example, if a particular student was significantly below grade level in mathematics at the beginning of the year, however, through directed teaching, authentic assessments, and lots of support, he or she was able to close the gap and score in the 25th percentile, that would surely represent effective teaching strategies. However, this snapshot standardized assessment would not reflect that the student was below average at the time. Compound that scenario by multiple students in the same scenario within the particular school, and it sends a message that the school may not be as effective, when in reality the faculty may be extremely skilled educators. The teaching staff are aware of the high stakes and the limitation. This leads many of the students and the faculty being under intense pressure under the test week. The classroom dynamic is tense, and everything is put on hold, as in normal curriculum or standard curriculum for this test during this period. And standardized tests do not measure much of what is taught, as much as the AQAO organization says that the tests are 100% of the curriculum. The students are introduced to subject through various discovery models, collaboration, logical reasoning activities, all in the aim to get them to think critically within a particular subject domain. However, the limited scope of a question scenario in a multiple choice framework may not enable a student to demonstrate these core abilities, nor they may have gone beyond that. Okay, so what's the desired situation? All right, well, a comprehensive assessment of student learning in a systematic process that uses diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments may be more beneficial than the current practice of comparing students against age and grade peers. We should de-emphasize the importance of standardized tests in favor of focusing on more and creating learning goals unique to each student and just based on those test scores. This would also help to reduce anxiety among students, teachers, and parents. Let's use technology as a way to differentiate the test to the individual needs of the students. For example, rather than being a traditional multiple choice and short answer, it could be product based, where students create something digitally and their competencies are measured through the product. This would better reflect, or even the process as well as the product, as this would better reflect the critical thinking, logical reasoning goals as the stated end state. An example of this is if you've ever been to a first Lego League um, competition, they often have a rubric which assesses the student's ability to collaborate and be creative and think critically. Technology can increase student engagement with the test by allowing students to show sort of an authentic picture of the student learning. Students love technology in their everyday lives. Why not use this to their advantage and design assessments that play into their interest? For example, students can create a blog reviewing their favorite video game, and this could be used to assess their writing school scores. Another example could be students writing a digital comment in response to something they've read. This can be used to assess their reading comprehension skills. Students hate sitting through AQAOs, and because of this, they often do not try their best on it. For example, one teacher reported about a student who achieved level 2 on a math test in grade 6 last year. However, this year in grade 7, he's been doing well in math because he enjoys the rich tasks that are given to demonstrate his understanding. Okay, so let's look at the knowledge. In finding solution to our problem from the administrator perspective, we must also consider what we know about the current and desired situation. Administrators should consider the impact of standardized testing on their learning community. They should also consider the impact of the test on student well-being. Does standardized tests have a negative impact on student learning, achievement, and the overall curriculum? These are two really important things for educators to consider, and they can rely upon the knowledge that's around them to cover these two things. Okay, we almost must consider what sort of resources are available to us as administrators. Should we examine best practices from other schools, um, colleagues, AQAO, and what about academic studies? Can we use those to help us interpret the results and also share those with the all of the stakeholders in this particular scenario: parents, students, teachers, everyone in the learning community? Ultimately, a question we came up with was, how do I use these resources to act as a transformational leader? Okay, so let's shift to now that we've sort of considered the gap between the current and desired situation, what is known, and the resources to us, let's derive some potential solution. The first solution could be to shift the test to a digital or online format. Some of the possible benefits including having well-designed online assessments that use visual stimuli, graphics, video, and potentially audio. Um, Although perhaps not initially cheaper, the return on investment would be demonstrated by closing the digital divide and getting results to students, teachers, and administration immediately. In other words, they can have immediate feedback. From there, the newer online tests could be leveraged very quickly towards individual learning plans, as opposed to tests being submitted and then returned, and there's a lag in between there. Potential risk to this solution would be that technology glitches or system unavailability, so there would need to be some contingency plans. Okay, another solution is maybe administer the test digitally over a longer period of days or weeks, perhaps with randomized questions of similar complexity. The benefit to this solution it will help to normalize student performances on those off days by providing multiple opportunities to demonstrate comprehension. And we had an interesting debate in our group over how how much teachers could be involved in that process, in the sense that could they analyze the test results of a student and say, well, we think this is indication or fair indication or not a fair indication. That would be interesting in the chat room for the under the chat for you to consider. The downside of this potential solution is that it extends the testing period. This could be mitigated by testing for shorter time periods over a longer chronology, thus providing students with a cognitive rest. The randomized questions would eliminate any risk of student collaboration between testing periods. Okay. Another solution that we came up with was the idea of standardized testing as part of a connected learning model. This is a video that was made by Pearson, and it talks about a whole assessment process that's embedded with individual learning plans with technology and tablets. And there's a section in the video where it looks at administrators and their particular role in helping teachers and as part of the learning process. So I encourage you to have a look at this video. We'll provide the link in the chat or below on this particular blog so that you can have a look at and just see that is there a way that we could embed the results of standardized tests or even offer that to students at particular times as a benchmark of their process, and then after that use those results right away to reflect upon their individual learning plans. In lieu of rote recall of learned knowledge, reminiscent of an educational model that's over a century old, imagine the potential if standardized tests could be adapted to measure 21st century fluencies, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. These are competencies that the students need moving forward in their lives in the ever-changing dynamic of the world. There's also a link at the end where of EKAO put together a document that links their tests to 21st century, which I encourage you to look at. So I think moving the test towards that and finding ways to leverage. As our final thoughts, our current situation is an antiquated testing process that produces results that are not necessarily reflective of teaching efficiency. The desired situation is where technology leverage is leveraged to not only provide a more authentic assessment and feedback of student achievement, but also to foster those lifelong skills of collaboration and critical thinking. We know the process of standardized tests often has a negative impact on teachers, learners, in the learning environment. We can assess best practices within the educational community of practice as well as information provided through academia to make decisions about the role standardized tests ought to play in evaluating program effectiveness. Using technology to shift the test to online formats, spreading the testing over a longer, more natural time frame, and using the immediate results of online testing to provide feedback and diagnostic, promoting digital fluency will maximize the attended benefits of standardized testing and also avoid the pitfall of skewed perceptions. Technology may not first appear to address the philosophical dilemmas of standardized tests. However, when you consider the potential solutions and benefits we provided here, shouldn't that be enough justification to try? Thanks for listening.